What is going on, my fantasy freakazoids? We are back. And by popular demand, I am going to be going back through my spreadsheet. And what we're going to do here is show you the final version of the spreadsheet that I have for 9-category Yahoo Fantasy Basketball. And this final version is going to be available for sale. You will see the link for the ability to purchase this spreadsheet down below. So if you're interested, definitely scoop it up. And what we're going to do here today, since I don't have a live draft going on right now, a live real money draft, what I want to do is go over the spreadsheet and apply it to a mock draft. This way we could see what it looks like to get full function of the spreadsheet. I'm also going to bring you some interesting insights when it comes to drafting, and I'm going to show you how to make edits within the spreadsheet to ensure that you're going for the statistics that you want. So we've got about, let's see, 2 minutes till we draft. So I'm going to try to go into as much as I possibly can in the spreadsheet before the draft. And let's take a look here. So it consists of really 2 tabs, but 3 tabs. So tab number 1 is all of the 2024-2025 projected average stats that I have here. So I've got Wemby at the number 1 overall value, and a lot of his value is derived from blocks. So I'll quickly show you kind of how these numbers work, how they tie into the standard deviation numbers, and how these standard deviation numbers tie into the total SD totals here. So let's kind of go into some quick assumptions. So what I've done here is I have projected stats for these players for this year, and I've done my best to get as close as I can to some predictions and some projections. They may not be 100%, but they are kind of the numbers that I think players are going to get. Like I think Victor Wembanyama is going to have 4.2 blocks per game this year. So I factor that in, and simply what this looks like, let's just use blocks as an example. So he has 4.2 blocks per game, and what I've done here is I've aggregated the average blocks of all of the NBA players here. And the average block is going to be something along the lines of 0.74 blocks. This is the mean, the average. I also have here the median. And I typically use, when I benchmark this stuff, I use the greater of the mean or the median to go into draft 2. We'll kind of get into the weeds on that one a little bit. But as you see, Victor Wembanyama gets, I'm guessing that he's going to get 4.2 blocks. So what I do is I divide that number by the average, and that gives us a standard deviation over the average here. So what you do is you take 4.2 and you divide it by 0.74, and you get right about 6. So let's see, 6. So here, I'll show you right over here, I2, here's the assumption. It's 4.2 divided by, what I've done here is I actually did the average of both of these numbers, the average of the mean and the median. So it yields a 0.6. And what you do to one cell, you do to all cells. This way you have sort of equality across your statistics. So you'll see all the players have the same thing. So let's go down to Luka Doncic. He'll have the same assumption. So he'll have his blocks divided by the average of the mean and the median, and that will yield how many standard deviations he is above or below the average block. So Victor Wembanyama is 6 times better than the average NBA player at blocking shots. That's like an extraordinary statistic. That's why he's so valuable. Not only is he, let's just take a look at the mock room. We're probably going to be entering pretty soon. I've put myself in the 5th position for the mock draft, mostly to have a couple talking points, and that big talking point is, who do you take number 5? Do you take Anthony Davis or do you take Giannis Antetokounmpo? It is a very rough and tough spot. Here's my logic. I don't know who I'm taking here in the 5th spot. I think it's a coin flip when it comes to AD or Giannis. My logic is Anthony Davis must be healthy. The guy's been playing the Olympics. He's been playing preseason. Even if he was just 90% healthy, they would be so cautious with his gameplay. But the dude is out there, and the dude is balling. He looks so good. The three-point shot is going. I think he's going to hit threes this year. Last year, he only hit 20. Oh, no, they have projected at 29 threes. You can't trust their projections. Kind of have to go off of your own projections, even though I don't think I have him projected for a ton. But last year, he averaged 0.4 threes a game. I think there's no way AD doesn't get 1 3 a game. That's my hot take. And I really should change that in my spreadsheet. So let's do that. Let's give AD a 3 a game. because I really think he's going to get there. And you'll see simply, just by changing the 1-3 a game, a lot of stats will change here. So watch, I'm going to change it to a 3 a game live. So his stats immediately go up. It actually makes him, wow, the second overall. Let's see. And then once we make a change here, the standard deviation total changes here. So in order to reorganize, you do sort Z to A. So you click on this top arrow, you sort Z to A. So if AD hits 1-3 a game, according to standard 9cat, he becomes the second most valuable player. And you'll see here, the average threes in the NBA this year, I think, are right about 2. Yeah, so it's going to be 1.7 to about 1.9. So that average is going to be about 1.8. So you'll see AD's SD will be about still half of the standard deviation here. So, it's a tough spot. Do you take AD or do you take Giannis? I don't know. I feel like it's a coin flip spot. Let's see what I do in this draft. But I still want to show you exactly how we take stats from tab number 1, throw it into tab number 2. I kind of anticipatorily put, I don't think that's a word, anticipatorily, but I kind of put Giannis in here because I might just grab him anyway. We'll see. But yeah, we have tab number 1, which is just the stats, and then we copy paste the tabs into tab number 2. And that will give you an idea of how your team looks according to the average stats here. So what we're doing is just creating a composite. So you want to make sure that you're hitting the stats that you're trying to hit and you're punting the stats that you're trying to punt. So I'm going to go into this mock draft with no real agenda aside from just drafting for talent and then figuring out how I want to punt along the way. So let's see. Wemby goes 1 standard. Jokic goes 2 standard. Although I think in the money drafts, the drafts that really care, Jokic is going number 2. I did a draft, a money draft, where Wemby went number 3 because somebody just absolutely loved Luka. So everything here totally standard. SGA goes before Luka. That's kind of fine. Man, I really like AD here this year. But let's throw in Giannis just to keep things interesting. So I'll show you exactly what we do here. Even though Giannis' stats are already in there, let's take his stats out there. So, and his stats are actually going to be revamped because AD's stats changed. And any one change to any of these statistics is going to make a change to everybody else's statistics simply because you are working off of a universe of stats. And any one change within that universe changes the entire universe. So you'll see any little tinker that you make here affects the averages, and players' benchmarks or player stats are against that benchmark. So if the average changes, their average changes or their numbers change. So let's take Giannis. And the problem with Giannis too, one big problem with Giannis is that, let me show you how we do it actually. So just so we could be really, really specific, what we do is we have Giannis here. We click on the number next to Giannis. We do Command C, and then we paste them into the draft, into tab 2. So you click on the column name, not the number, you click on the name, and then you do Shift Command V. The reason you do Shift Command V is so that the SD total and the percentage shows up. If you just do standard paste, copy paste, these are going to come up with errors because they're linked to the previous page. So what we want to do here is either do Shift Command V or we do right click, paste special, values only. This way your SD totals show up and this shows up. So I'm up next. Let's see who I am lucky enough to grab. Let's see. Oh, Joel Embiid. Here's a dude who's really going to fall. There's been some really interesting injury updates. Obviously, the Sixers are in shambles a little bit. Let's see. Let's grab Harden here. I feel like he's the dude. Let's see who went. Who went? Yeah, let's grab Harden here. And I'll show you how we drag his stats from over here to over there. So we do search function, Command F, and we type in HARD. Type in Harden, boom, and then we click to the left. We click on number 22 next to his name, and we copy, Command C, or right click, copy, and then we go over to draft, or tab number 2, draft room. Don't click on the number, we click on the name tab right under Giannis, and we do Shift Command V. And now we're doing pretty well to start the draft out. Got good numbers. Harden lacks in points a little bit. Good in threes, mediocre rebounder, just below average. You can see here's the average, the running average here, 6. So he's just below the average here, and you'll see these numbers, you'll have our percentage above numbers, which is simply our number averages divided by the league average, or our universe of statistical averages here. So right now, we're doing well in assists thus far. We're doing pretty good across the board except for free throw. Obviously, Giannis is a huge weight on that free throw, and what I've done in this algo, which is really nice, I don't simply have the average of our free throw. That doesn't take in weight. What we have here is the average of our free throw makes divided by free throw attempts. So we've aggregated these stats. This way we're accounting for weight. Obviously, if you don't account for weight, your numbers are going to look really strange, and it may not reflect how many free throws a person actually takes. So number 3 here, Devin Booker does look like a solid pick. Although I think we take KD above Book. It's a close spot, but I think we take a KD here. That's a really good value. Let's snag KD. Really good value here. Again, a mock draft is just not going to be like the real thing. There's going to be some funky things happening within a mock draft. So I'll still give you some insight on drafting and kind of like players to pick in which position according to a build. But the most important thing is to consider our build. You don't just pick best player available necessarily. You try to pick according to a build. Maybe the first 3 picks are best player available. Maybe the first 4 picks are best player available. But you want to start to establish what your league is or what your team is going to look like with regards to emphasizing stats and punting a few stats. So let's toss KD in the mix. So we go over here, search function, Command F, DUR, and he'll show right up. DURANT. We click on the 18, copy, and paste. And also, if you do feel like purchasing this spreadsheet and you feel like it's a good decision for your team, I'll be there to help you along the way to make any modifications. So at the end of this mock draft, I'll still continue to go down the tab number 1 and talk about how we put on weights to certain statistics, because there's certain stats that I think are weighted a little too much. Number 1, blocks. I don't think you want to put a full block weight versus the same thing as like a points. My logic is that blocks tend to be a rare category, so there's so much skew. Victor Wembanyama, so much of his value is derived from blocks, and I'll show you for example. Brook Lopez sits here above Giannis, which is crazy. You're never going to pick Brook above Giannis unless you're a crazy person, unless you know something that I don't know. But nobody's picking Brook ahead of Giannis. But according to these statistical standard deviations, he is a slightly edge over Giannis. That's probably because Brook Lopez doesn't have that much of a drag on the turnovers, and he is better statistically in free throw percentage, and he's better statistically in blocks, which is a huge weight here. See, he's got 3 standard deviation values that he derives from blocks, whereas a Giannis, he's more of a flat value because he's really good in points, rebounds, and assists. His biggest weight here would be rebounds, where he has a 2 standard deviation above. But across all of his stats, he brings more value than a Brook. So you just got to be aware of looking to this. Don't take it with a massive grain of salt. Let's see if we're getting pick number 4. Don't love Larry Markkinen this year. The Jazz are going to be tanking for Cooper Flag. They have nothing to play for. The West is so terribly competitive. I just don't see Jazz doing well. I think there's going to be a real tankathon down the end of the season. So I don't love Lauri Markkinen. I think there's guys who are better than him in this spot. Like I'd rather take a Fred VanVleet or a Jalen Johnson, and I have my shot at both. So I'm going to grab an FVV here so I could secure a few more assists and I could grab some steals. So let's see what it looks like. I'm grabbing an FVV and let's find him. Freddie boy. So again, we copy, we paste without formatting, right click, values only, boom, Fred's in. Let's see how we're doing in this draft so far. Points are okay. We're 34% above the average. When you see this, when you see 134%, that means you're 34% above 17. And right now for threes, we're 11% above 1.9. Rebounds, we're just above the average. Assists, we're doing well. Steals, we're doing well. Blocks, we're doing well. this is a pretty good team. You know, I might try to make a build here where I'm going for my 7-2 wins, my 8-1 wins, and that glorious 9-0 win. If you could stack some of those wins, you're in great position in your league because you get a bye spot and you're not at risk in the first round of the playoffs, and you get to have a little more mobility toward the end of the season. Wow, Jalen Johnson's still available here. That's such an easy grab in this spot. That's why I like grabbing a Fred VanVleet above Jalen. I find that Fred doesn't fall, but Jalen does. Sometimes. Not always. Real drafts function so much differently than a mock, so just be wary. Let's grab a Jalen here. That's a very easy pick for us in the family. Let's see. Control F. Jalen Johnson. And like mentioned, at the end of this draft, I'm going to go through and I'm going to turn off. I'll show you what it looks like to reduce the weight of turnovers, to reduce the weight of blocks, to reduce the weight of steals, free throw percentage, and field goal percentage. And I'll give you my logic for why I'm going to turn down those weights. The real logic is that you want to make sure that you are turning down the weight for high variance statistics. For example, Paolo Banchero, he may have 1 week where he is wonderful from the free throw line, where he's shooting 85%. And in that week, when he's shooting 85%, you could win your free throw percentage, and you're going to end up winning that week, depending if your other categories are good. So it's a highly variable stat, and you could end up winning your stats in 1 week. It's not as enduring as points, rebounds, assists, and threes. Those stats I find to be enduring week to week. There's more consistency. When you have a high variance stat like steals and free throw percentage, you want to turn down the weight because there are going to be weeks of variance where even if you're below the standard deviation in those numbers, there's still going to be those weeks where you're going to win in those categories. So you want to give yourself the best possible chance of winning. You don't necessarily want to weight certain things the same way. That's just my logic. That's just the way I've seen fantasy work in my lifetime. And you also want to go into a draft with a little bit of an agenda. Like, I know in one of my leagues, we have, and I'll record this. This is a $500 draft with a couple players putting up a few more bucks for a side pot. It's going to be a big, pretty decent money draft. And in this league, it's 9 category, but it's 1-0. So if you win your week 9-0 or you win your week 5-4, it's a 1 win or it's a 0 loss. Vice versa. If you lose 5-4, it's the same thing as losing 9-0. So you want to make sure in a league like that, which functions a lot more like a points league, you want to make sure that you are punting way more than you would in a standard 9 cap. So let's see who we have next. Kawhi. Oi. Kawhi's a guy who's scaring me a lot this year. Wow. A Zion in the spot I think is really interesting. Good value. My logic is that I already have Giannis, and I've paired it with a couple lower field goal percentage guys. Ooh, I don't know if I want to go full free throw punt, but this is a mock anyway. Let's grab Zion and let's see what it looks like for us to get really, really big field goal percentage here. So Zion is going to be rated super low here. You'll see. The reason why he is weighted low, and I'll show you the logic of this spreadsheet so you can see. Like, Zion is not the 133rd ranked player. He simply is not. But I'll show you why in the spreadsheet he is. The reason being is that the stats that he is good at, he's really just above the standard deviation per example. He's only 33% above the standard deviation in points. He doesn't really hit threes. Just standard with rebounds. He's 20% better than the average steal guy. Just standard at steals. Just standard at blocks. And he's only, now here is the money. Because field goal percentage isn't weighted, there's no way to weight field goal percentage according to standard deviation, even though he is a remarkable field goal percentage guy. It only shows as a 20% greater than the standard deviation. Zion Williamson is let's take a look. He's 58% field goal percentage, which is crazy. It's crazy. That's a huge number. So the weight on a field goal percentage is going to look a lot different than the weight on points. There's just so much more variance in field goal percentage because the average field goal percentage is 50. And when you have 8 standard deviation points above 50, statistically, it just doesn't show up the same way. I'll show you here. We dropped in Zion, and our field goal percentage is looking awesome. However, we're only 6 percentage points above the average field goal percentage. But that's actually a whole heck of a lot for field goals. Our next pick here, I think we're avoiding Kawhi like the plague. Oh, it's 65, and the world has caught him. The world has seen the great fall from grace that is Kawhi Leonard. He's not going to be playing any back-to-backs, and he's out indefinitely. We could grab a Toby here. I don't think Toby's such a bad grab. We could take Darius, but let's grab a Tobias Harris. All right, so we find Toby Harris. Let's drop him in. Again, we are either Shift Command V or we're right-clicking, pasting values only. So we'll see. How is our team shipping up so far? So we're 26 percentage points above the average. Great. Below average in threes. Let's see if he can make a comeback in threes. We really don't need to make a comeback in threes. We don't have crazy big three-point guys anyway. FEV is good, but the redeeming value of an FEV is that he also gets you crazy good assists, crazy good steals, and actually unbelievable blocks from an out-of-position guard. So you're getting 0.85 blocks from a guy in that area. Is he necessarily going to maintain that value? I don't know, but you know, those stats might be enduring. Either way, he's going to get a combo of something like two total steals and blocks, plus minus two total steals and blocks. The draft is moving along. Okay. Let's see who else we got here. Let's go to expert rank. Cam Thomas, he's pure points. I don't think I'm going after pure points. What do I want to go after? Good stats and field goal. Free throw might be a somewhat of a punt here. Hartenstein too, big injury. He's going to be down for 6 weeks. That's a huge bummer. That's a guy that you might want to avoid until very, very late. We could take Giddey here. Not loving it. We could take, let's take a Drew. I feel like a Drew is solid 9-cap pick. Let's take a Drew here. We're really doing it now. Now let's evaluate our team because we have, 5 more picks left. And let's start to punt a little bit. Let's see what we need to punt at. We're doing good in points, so we want to retain some sort of points. We probably want to get some big men here. Because I think despite having... Let's take a look. Despite having Zion, who doesn't qualify for... Oh, he does qualify for center. That's pretty good here. So I do have 2 centers. I might want to find another big. What's nice about Jalen Johnson, too, he's one of those guys who's just like... all around good statistics. I think he's going to have a really, really remarkably good year this year. He'll get you just below average on threes. And another take that I have this year, 3-point shooting is going way, way, way up. People are going to be popping like nuts this year. So everybody's going to be shooting threes. The league has changed so much over the past 5 years. Like, people are jacking up shots. If you saw the way the league was playing in the late 90s, people would be freaked out at the pace of play. So threes are going to be up this year. Let us see. Let's go to my stats. Let's see how we're looking. Field goal percentage, we should be pretty good here. I really don't focus on turnovers too much. It's a good thing to keep an eye on just to make sure you're not going crazy here. Let's see what it looks like to grab a big. Let's take a look at some centers. I mean, if you're so inclined, you could grab a Hartenstein here, thrown to the IL, but the problem is if injuries start piling up, you could start to get in trouble. I like a Keegan a lot this year. I really like a Keegan this year. I know it's sort of a hot take, but I'm a big fan of Keegan this year for many reasons. And the biggest reason is that DeMar DeRozan coming into town doesn't necessarily mean that any of his value is taken away. He was never a big usage guy anyway, not much of a shot creator on his own. He's a catch and shoot, he's a total bucket, he's a D in 3, and he also gets you blocks along with the steals. So he's really good in 3-pointers, and relative to 3-pointers, he's really good at field goal percentage and really decent free throw percentage, low turnover, high steal, high block. So I think he's a really good across all the statistics, really, really sharp player. And a guy that I think will make good impact this year. People are sleeping on him, but, not me so much this year. I like him a lot. So let's grab Keegan. So let's do Command F, KEEG. And in our rankings here, that I have, he's rated 40. I don't really think he's a 40 rated guy. A lot of that comes from his efficiency. But let's pop him in here. Really, really good across the board. I have him at a block and a steal with 2 points, just under 2.5 threes a game, 17 points, 5 rebounds, 46%, 81, and less than a turnover. So he's one of those dudes who's just is not going to hurt you. He's just going to help you everywhere. So I think he's an interesting pick here. Let's see what we need to work on. I might just not even draft for punt, but aggressively just try to draft for equanimity across the board here. Let's see who we could get next. That's a good, impactful player. Maybe someone that can hit threes. This way we're not totally at the bottom. Either way, this will show you how powerful a tool this is. Really, whatever you want to hit, this will help you kind of get as close as you want to your target. So let's see. Maybe this is a Brook spot. A Brook spot at 96. I mean, that's pretty good value. Let's see if there's a note here that scares us. Not starting Thursday. Rest. Give the man a day to rest. Yeah. Yeah, let's grab a Brookie here. That's good value at a 96, I think. And you'll see, on this spreadsheet, he is ranked simply way too high, which is why I have to show you how to toggle on and off certain weights. He's not a 14 rated guy. He cannot be. He's too low octane and too many stats to be rated so high. With so much of his value derived from blocks, who knows if he even matches those numbers this year. So, but either way, really good value in a spot like this. He really pushes us up in blocks. We're looking pretty good here. And also what I have in this tab too, in this spreadsheet that I didn't mention, is the draft results, the league draft results from my $1,000 league. And in addition, I have every roster, every ad that was made thus far. So you can see exactly what moves were made thus far and the entire order of the draft for the $1,000 league. So that's going to be super valuable to you as well as you make your picks. We are headed into the 2024-2025 season. The season is starting this Tuesday. All the smart people are drafting tonight, the day after, as close as they can to the league starting. Obviously, all these injuries piling up. You have Hartenstein. You have official word on Embiid. You have Paul George. You have, I mentioned Joel Embiid. You have Kawhi Leonard. The story's coming out that he's out indefinitely. This stuff is coming out now, and people who drafted a couple months ago or who drafted a month ago are, they're kind of in a bit of a position where they drafted these guys a little too high. The more information you have, the better. That's why we like to draft closer to the season. This is a good spot for Nas here. 105, even according to my build. I may be going a little center heavy, but I think he's super, super, super good value here. Let's grab a Nas. Let's see who else we could have grabbed. No, Nas is so our guy here. Let's grab a Nas, and then let's grab a Dante. I am so big on Dante this year. I'm so big on Dante. Maybe I should have grabbed Dante before Nas, but we did it, and we live by it. So let's pop Nas in here. Click to the left on the 113, copy, paste in. Our stats are looking really good across the board. And what I like here too is that we got Brook and Nas, which are out of position three-pointers. You're getting centers who shoot threes, who have decent efficiencies, and they actually derive some pretty good value from their blocks and steals here. I don't know why I have 0.7 steals. That's probably about right. I don't want to shift too many things around. But we're looking really, really good across the board, and we're looking actually really efficient with our turnovers too. However, the reason being is that we're pretty mediocre in our assists. But we should be able to be pretty nimble here. Let's see if I'm able to scoop a Dante. No, Dante gone. Who else might we have here? I like Tyus Jones. It might be a little early here, especially when comping him against the Dante, but I like Tyus a lot this year. I think he's going to do pretty well. I think he's going to get close to that 7.3 assist mark. They need a guy who can whip the ball around on that squad. I like Amen too, but I could use a point guard here. Probably a little early for Tyus, but I think he does help us get really, really late assists here. Super late assists and at a good clip. He's got a good chance to even get to 8 assists this year. So boom, that really helps us in assists. Let's see how we're doing positionally so far. Boom, we locked all our positions. This is looking like a sharp team. Looking like a pretty sharp team, although I think we're going to be a little bit in trouble with free throw percentage. That's just obvious, but what we've lost in free throw percentage, we are going to make up for spades in field goal percentage and threes relative to that. I think we'll be very okay in threes relative to our field goal percentage. Let's take a look at standings. Let's see our average stats. Yeah, we're number 1 in field goal percentage based on last year, and we're right in the middle for threes, which is super hard to achieve. It's hard to get that combo of threes to field goal percentage because 3 is the lowest percentage shot you could take in the game, unless you're Steph Curry. That dude is not human. We got some interesting guys here. I like Amen. I think he's going to get some good minutes off the bench. He obviously liked Amen too. Keontae. I don't like Keontae for his field goal percentage, but I do think he's going to be a high PPG, high assist, but also his turnovers are going to stink. He's not going to bring you much in the way of defensive stats. There's probably better guys who I can pick here. Cam Johnson. Oh, the Nets are a freaking tire fire. I like Alex Sarr a lot. I think he's a good shot here. Let's grab a shot at Sarr. I think he's such a fun guy this year. And according to my stats, he's ranked super high. I've got him going for 13 points per game, 1.5 threes, and almost 2 blocks a game with way above average rebounds. So let's drop a Sarr in this spot. All right, so here we have a full draft, and you could see our numbers. Let's see how we did here. We were 4 percentage points above the average in PPG, not great. Just below the average for three-pointers, meh. Rebounds, just right at the average. Assists, just right at the average. Steals at the average. Blocks above average. Field goal percentage above average. Free throw below. And turnovers right. Pretty much our turnovers are going to be a winner here too. So I think across the board, we drafted well for balance here. We didn't go for any one particular punt, which I think is also a very interesting approach. You got to be able to stack your big wins. If you draft the right way, you don't necessarily need to punt. Too many people talk about punting. It is way overrated, especially in a true 9 category when you have value for winning your 7-2s, your 8-1s, and your 9-0s. There is immense value in getting those gigantic wins. Yeah, sure, there's some teams that are going to wallop you like 4 to 5 in some stats, but you're going to grab a buy spot if you draft the right way, and you'll be able to be nimble throughout the season. A good draft, if you nail your draft, you've done 40% of the job. If you kind of screwed your draft, you know, let's see, could it be as bad as a 50% weight if you totally screw your draft? If you do mediocre, it could be 30% weight. The rest of it is being a good manager during the season. You got to be aware of the waiver wire moves that you can make in the first week. So in week number 1 and week number 2 is where you're going to make all your money with your initial ads. There's going to be guys who are going to pop up that come out of nowhere, some interesting dudes. So you just got to stay very aware during the first couple weeks. And then obviously as the season progresses, injuries happen. You got to be quick on the waiver. What you need to do is follow Sham Sharanya on Twitter. This way, anytime there's a Sham bomb, you are aware of what's going on. You need to be the first dude to the waiver wire to make your moves. All right, so now that we've done our draft and I showed you how to copy and paste appropriately from tab number 1 to tab number 2, I'm quickly going to show you how to change your weights. So let's say we want to turn down the weights a little bit for blocks, or turn down the weights. I'll do multiple weights. So what we're going to do here, first of all, is we're going to make a copy of this. So we're going to duplicate this tab, and we're going to call this, I always like to do my copies as testers. This way you know that this is your tester tab. So let's go through this, and we're going to troubleshoot some things too. Troubleshoot number one. If you make a mistake here, let's say you delete this by accident. Oh no! All the stats change. The way to fix this is to do edit, undo, or Command Z. So you want to undo any mistakes. Boom, we're back in action. So if you do, there's 2 places to edit within this spreadsheet. Number 1 is to edit the statistics directly here. So all your stats on this area. And then the other place to edit would be after here. You're not going to want to directly edit the numbers within these columns and rows, because these numbers directly correlate to the standard deviation numbers that are in this column. So I'll show you for example. Let's say you think Victor Wembanyama is going to get 21 points per game. That's going to change things a lot. Let's see how much this changes our standard deviation. Boom. So it changes it only slightly. So let's do Control-Z. We'll bring that back. But not only does it change this, it changes everything. So you'll see, I'm going to do Control-Z, and you'll see all these items change. Watch. Boom. Everything changes a little bit. So you could either edit directly in here based on your projections, or you could go over to the standard deviation numbers and you could throw in some weights. For example, let's say you want to turn down the heat a little bit on field goal percentage, free throw percentage, turnovers, and blocks. Let's do it. So blocks number one, here's how we do it. So at the end of this formula, you're simply going to do Shift 8, which is going to be an asterisk, aka times. So it's going to be multiplied by, and how much do you want to weight down blocks? Let's say you want to do a 50% weight on blocks. You do times 0.5. And then boom, instead of Wemby having a 6-point value for standard deviation, he has a 3 and change value. Let's change that back, Control-Z. Another way to do that is you could just take this and you could do divided by 2. Same thing as 0.5. Look at me, I'm doing math lessons for you. So let's change that right back. Okay, so let's do this again. Times 0.5, and what you change to one player, you have to change to all players. So the best way to do this is to just grab this little box. You'll see this plus sign, and you'll drag it all the way down. And when you drag this down, it changes all of these gentlemen's stats, and then you'll see to the left, it changes the standard deviation total. So it takes away 3 standard deviation points from Victor Wembanyama, which makes total sense. So let's continue down this path, and then I'll show you how to reorganize this again. Effectively, every time you make a change to your stats, you're going to want to reorganize your standard deviations total by clicking on this arrow and clicking Sort Z to A. So that's going to be high to low. Let's go back here. So now that we've changed blocks, let's change field goal. Let's put that at a 50% too. So times 0.5. Same thing. What you change in one box, you have to change to all. So let's drag this bad boy all the way down. Drag it down. Bing. And then let's do the same thing to free throw, times 0.5. And like I mentioned before, I have one league where I pretty much do change the weights of these simply because I'm going for punt numbers. I don't want to have a super weight on high variance stats. Not into that. And I need to make many punts, probably 2 or 3 punts in my league where it's a 1-0 format. So I've done that. The free throw, let's do 20% of the value for turnovers, because turnovers is one of those categories that if you're counting on turnovers to win you your league, you might be in a little bit of trouble, because turnovers directly correlates to having the ball in your hand. And having the ball in your hand typically means that you're going to get more shots on goal. You're going to have more assist shots. You're going to have more threes. You're going to have more points. Okay, so let's do this. Times 0.2%. And what you do to one, you do to all. So let's drag this bad boy down here. So now that we've turned down the weight in all these stats, let's see how it affects our players, namely a Brook Lopez. So Brook Lopez before was rated ahead of Giannis. Let's see how it looks now. So let's do Sort Z to A. Let's do Control F, B, R, O, okay. And now Brook Lopez is at 71 once you've turned down the heat. That's the problem I see with going with straight 9-cat. It's cool to have these stats up here, because it's really interesting to know what everything looks like on a 1-to-1 correlation. When you have all the stats very even and everything is weighted equally, all nine categories stand as the same weight. But once you change your weights, the ranks change a lot. So let's see. Here's our tester, and again, we always want to make the tester tab. This way, we could keep our source data. We could keep our source data. We could keep it with integrity. So let's go over to tester tab number here too, and we'll see what our ranks look like. In this format where I've turned down percentages and I've turned down turnovers, Trae Young pops right up to the number 3 spot. Let's see where Trae is in this spot. Trae Young is number 17 here. So that's why you need to understand your target before you draft. If you just go blindly off whatever stats are spoon-fed to you, you're going to have deception in your drafting quality. Like, I got Brook super late in the draft over here. Let's see where I got Brookie boy. I got Brook Round 10, pick number 6. 96th overall pick. That would have been absolutely ridiculous value. He would have gone in like the 30s according to these statistics. If you went truly by these stats, that's why you can't just go by these stats. You have to. Whoops. See, I made a little mistake here. Live troubleshooting. Control Z, and we're good. That's why you need to alter these stats to make sense for what you're going for. So I think that should be pretty insightful. I think that will give you a really good idea of, number one, the value of the spreadsheet, and number two, how to edit the spreadsheet to get you what you want and how to place items from number 1 into number 2 and put it into your draft here. And what I will do in the spreadsheet, I'll create a couple of these templates for you, but I want to show you, instead of just giving you the fish, I want to show you how to fish. So let's say you have your draft over here. Let's do this. What we want to do in order to duplicate this draft, we simply highlight the entire area of the draft, copy, just a basic copy, and then just a basic paste. So you paste it here, and then when you're getting ready for your next draft, what you do is you highlight. I like to leave one player here just as a little template. So what I like to do is highlight 2 through 13. I copy it, I delete the whole thing, and then I highlight the numbers here, 39 through 50, and then I delete. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. I meant 39 to 50. I delete, and then I paste back in the numbers, and boom, there I go. I'm ready for a brand new draft. So when I'm ready for my new draft, I simply do the same old thing. I copy and paste, find a player's name, click on the number to the left of their name, copy, and then I paste without formatting, and then boom, we are ready to go. I wish you the absolute best of luck with the remaining drafts. You smart managers who have waited this long to draft, you have avoided a lot of chaos, so I congratulate you for that. Hopefully this is extremely valuable to you. Again, this spreadsheet is available for sale, and I will also help you troubleshoot. And on top of that, if you purchase a spreadsheet throughout the season, I'll let you know the roster moves I'm making when I make them. I'll give you an email update every time I make a move, so that way you can see the adjustments I'm making. And to show you again, if you haven't seen the last video, I've been playing fantasy for a very long time. Just to let you know, I'm not talking out of my tushy here. I am a diamond rated fantasy. Been playing since 2003, since I was 13. Right now I'm 34 years young. What have I done with my life? I'm diamond rated, so I'll click through. I'll show you the kind of the accolades I have here. Blah, 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 blah. Overview for basketball. I'm going to probably eclipse 1,000 wins this year. 68% win. Exit out of this. 68% wins. Diamond level 11 times. 40 trophies. 63 teams. I've been playing for so freaking long. I've never really created content, so now it's time for me to share the stuff I know, because I've got cool things to say. I think you could learn from it. So again, hopefully you love the video. And hopefully you could get the spreadsheet and get a ton of value out of it. I'm here to help you every single step of the way. And until next time, I will catch you. And as a bonus, I'm going to be recording my private $500 league where it's a 1-0 format, so you can see how a league like this drafts. I'll show you all the nuance. But I'm looking forward to seeing you on the next one, and enjoy.